here this morning. And she's going to come up and share a little bit about her ministry. But before she does that, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background on Miss Val Johnson. Singing with Val has been signing for more than 30 years and interpreting for more than 10. She's an interpreter, a sign language music artist, and a strong advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing communities. When God first called Val to do a song in sign language, little did she know that he had so much more in store for her. In 1995, the Lord impressed upon Sal to return to college to earn a BA degree in sign language studies. And again in 2003, to prepare for the test to become a state certified interpreter, which she accomplished in September 2003. That same year, she established a nonprofit organization called Touching the Nations, Inc., which she operated until she and her husband moved to Georgia in 2013. Her message is simple. Let's not forget our deaf brothers and sisters. Let's not forget that deaf people need the gospel just as much as hearing people need it. Her mission is to celebrate the deaf community. Deaf people can do anything that hearing people can do, except hear. And educate the hearing population. Did you know that there are deaf professionals, teachers, attorneys, successful entrepreneurs? Val's ultimate desire is to see the whole world sign, and she is making her mark by providing teaching, preaching, and music videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. In addition, she has been seen on Atlanta Live, the Word Network, and interviewed on several radio stations. Val's been married to her #1 fan and biggest supporter, Arthur, for 37 years. They are proud parents of Jonathan, Jennifer, Jeremy, and his wife, Kirsten, and 3 beautiful grandchildren, Jojo, Joshua, and Carly. The theme of Val's life is from a song which simply says, "If I can help someone as I pass this way, then my living will not be in vain." Let me introduce Val.
Good. I did that for a reason. That's what many in the deaf community are forced to do when they go to church every Sunday with no interpreters. You might say, Val, come on. You're exaggerating a little bit. Forced? Let me tell you a quick story. I interviewed a young deaf man, and he said to me, I went to my pastor, and I said to my pastor, Pastor, can you get an interpreter for me? His pastor's response was, no, there's not enough of you here to get an interpreter. So the young man told me, he said, Val, I just sat in silence. He said, I would read the words on the screen to the songs. He said, but then when it came time for the preaching of the word of God, he said, it just went right over my head. He said, then he ended up going to another church. He would drive, I believe it was about an hour, to go to a church where there were interpreters. God said to Moses in Exodus, I believe it was the 4th chapter, who has made the deaf, the blind, the mute? Have not I the Lord? And yet, that pastor could not get an interpreter for one person. Jesus would have died if there was only just one of us. Why couldn't he have gotten an interpreter for just one person? In the deaf community, someone asked me one time, actually a friend of mine I could hear, she said, Val, why are they so angry? They're angry because of one of the reasons what I just told you. I remember watching a videotape, and a pastor, he had them bring a bowl of water. He said, I want a deaf preacher to come up here, I want a deaf mother to come up here, and I want a deaf young person to come up here. He put the basin of water on the floor. He rolled up his sleeves, took his jacket off, rolled up his sleeves. But before he did, he says, I want to apologize to you. I want to apologize for not giving you what you needed. I want to apologize. And one of the deaf people said, I'm sorry. I hated you all for that very reason. This is not just one church. The Lord has called me to do this. In 2003, he said, go to the churches. In our churches, deaf people are being pushed aside. You're not good enough. Go sit over in the corner, in the back, in the dark. I've been in all kinds of situations in our churches. The one place that should be a safe haven for the deaf community is one of the places that they are pushed aside. And so my mission has been to continue traveling, continue going, continue to whoever will listen, to know that there's a deaf community out there that needs Jesus Christ. Less than 5% of our churches in America have any type of outreach to the deaf community. I want to change that. There are more than 70 million deaf and hard of hearing in the world, and yet only 2 to 4% know Jesus Christ. They wouldn't have a clue if you said, do you know Jesus? They might say, well, if you describe him, maybe I might know him. Maybe I've seen him before. Because they're not getting the gospel. So that's my mission. God has called me that I'll be doing probably for the rest of my life. And I'm so grateful to Pastor Keith for opening the doors for me to come, to interpret, as well as to share. Thank you, Ty and Lorima, and Shelley, for making this happen. But I want to just plant a seed in you all today. That whether you can physically see the deaf person, you don't know who's in the audience. I'm from Michigan originally, and I remember one Sunday morning, and I sat down and I said, you know what, I finished signing just like I did just now, praise and worship. I sat down and I said, well, there are no deaf people here. I'm not going to sign the sermon. And I sat down. Usher came up to me and said, Val, there's a visitor here. She was here last week. She saw you all signing, and she went home and got her deaf daughter. So I had to jump up on stage, and in my mind, I'm praying, Lord, please let her be able to see me. I don't know where she's sitting. And it wasn't until my pastor said, are there any visitors? And the young lady raised her hand. But there's more to the story. After church, I sat and I talked with her and her mom. That young lady gave her heart to the Lord that day. And she became a faithful member of the church. We don't know who's in our audience. So we can't say there's nobody deaf here. The harvest is plentiful. When we get to heaven, there's not going to be a deaf section, a Hispanic section, a black section, or a white section. So we got to start preparing down here for the deaf community. If you say, Val, I'm too busy, I'll give you an app. Val, I can't do it. Do you have to use the bathroom? You got something to do. Take your cell phone in there with you. Okay? So I just want to plant a seed today. I do want to see the whole world sign. Okay, so wherever I go, even if it's just simple. So today I'm going to teach you just something very simple. 2 signs. One is, some of you may know, this means I love you. This is the I, the L, and the Y. I love you. And I'm going to show you a second one. And it's going to be just, what's up? Middle finger. Your middle finger, touch your chest. On that note, thank you and God bless you.
If I could have the ushers come forward. This is a time in our service where we'll continue to worship through our tithes and our offerings. If you're a guest here,